It was a bright summer afternoon on August 22, 2015. Thousands of people gathered at Shoreham Airshow in West Sussex, UK, excited to see classic aircrafts perform daring stunts in the sky. The show was in full swing when a vintage Hawker Hunter jet took off, ready to execute an impressive loop. The crowd watched in awe as the jet climbed higher and higher, but then something went horribly wrong. The jet didn't pull out of the loop as expected. Instead, it started to descend rapidly, heading straight for the ground. In a matter of seconds, the aircraft smashed into the A27 motorway, creating a devastating explosion. The peaceful afternoon turned into a scene of chaos and devastation. 11 people lost their lives, and 16 others were injured in an instant. What went wrong that day? How did a routine airshow stunt turn into one of the deadliest airshow disasters in the UK's history? And could this tragedy have been prevented? The Shoreham Airshow, held annually at the Brighton City Airport in West Sussex, had long been a beloved event for aviation enthusiasts and local families alike. Organized by the Royal Air Force Association, or RAFA, the airshow was a major fundraiser supporting veterans and serving members of the Royal Air Force. Over its many years of operation, the Shoreham Airshow had built a reputation for showcasing an impressive array of aircraft, ranging from modern military jets to historic warplanes, performing breathtaking aerobatic displays. In 2015, the show's lineup included a performance by a Hawker Hunter T-7, a British jet aircraft that first took to the skies in the early 1950s. The Hawker Hunter was a significant aircraft in British aviation history, known for its modern design and impressive performance during its service with the Royal Air Force and other air forces around the world. By the time of the 2015 air show, the Hunter had been retired from military service and was primarily flown at air shows, serving as a powerful reminder of the jet age. The Hawker Hunter scheduled to perform at this Shoreham show was owned by a private collector and flown by Andrew Hill, a pilot with extensive experience in both military and civilian aviation. Hill was well respected within the airshow circuit, having performed numerous displays with vintage aircraft. The Hawker Hunter he was flying that day was a single-seated variant, specifically designed for training and equipped with a powerful Rolls-Royce Avon engine, capable of reaching speeds of over 700 miles per hour. The airshow on August 22, 2015 started like any other. The weather was ideal for flying, with clear skies and warm temperatures. Spectators, including families, aviation enthusiasts, and photographers, gathered along the perimeter of the airfield, eager to witness the aerial displays. The atmosphere was filled with excitement and anticipation as aircraft of various types and eras took to the skies, performing loops, rolls, and other aerobatic maneuvers. The Hawker Hunter's display was one of the most anticipated performances of the day. The jet was expected to perform a series of aerobatic maneuvers, showcasing the agility and power of the historic aircraft. Among these maneuvers was a loop-to-loop, a challenging aerobatic feature that required precise control, especially given the aircraft's age and the physical demands on both the plane and the pilot. As the time approached for the Hunter's display, all eyes were on the sky. The jet took off smoothly, and the familiar roar of its engine filled the air. Andrew Hill, the pilot, began the display with a series of smooth passes over the airfield, demonstrating the aircraft's power and grace. The crowd watched in awe as the Hunter climbed higher, preparing to execute the loop maneuver. The loop-to-loop is a maneuver that involves the aircraft flying in a vertical circle. To perform it safely, the pilot must ensure that the aircraft gains enough altitude and speed before pulling back on the control stick to bring the nose of the aircraft upwards. As the aircraft reaches the top of the loop, it's momentarily inverted before descending and completing the circle. This maneuver requires precise timing and control, as any miscalculation can lead to a dangerous situation. As the Hunter began its ascent into the loop, the crowd watched with bated breath. The jet arced gracefully upward, its engine roaring as it climbed higher and higher. However, as the aircraft reached the apex of the loop, something seemed off. The jet appeared to be lower than expected, and instead of leveling out, it began to descend rapidly. This moment marked the beginning of one of the deadliest airshow disasters in the UK's history. The events that followed would leave a lasting impact on the world of aviation and airshow safety. As the Hawker Hunter began its descent from the apex of the loop maneuver, the situation quickly turned from an awe-inspiring display to a catastrophic disaster. The aircraft, instead of leveling out as expected, continued to descend at an alarming rate. The crowd, initially captivated by the spectacle, began to realize that something was terribly wrong. The jet was descending too quickly, and it was clear that the pilot had lost control. At 1:22 p.m., in a horrifying moment that lasted just seconds, the Hunter jet crashed onto the A27 motorway. The impact was catastrophic. The aircraft hit the ground nose first, shattering into multiple pieces upon impact. The fuel tanks ruptured, and within moments, a massive explosion engulfed the surrounding area. A fireball erupted, sending thick plumes of black smoke skyward, visible from miles away. The scene was one of utter devastation. The motorway, filled with vehicles, was instantly transformed into a chaotic inferno. Several cars caught in the jet's path were completely destroyed. Their occupants trapped inside as flames consumed the wreckage. The explosion sent debris flying in all directions, damaging vehicles and buildings in the vicinity. The impact and subsequent explosion were so powerful that some of the vehicles were thrown off the road, while others were left crumpled and burning. In the immediate aftermath of the crash, the area was engulfed in chaos. Spectators, initially stunned by what they had witnessed, began to react. Some ran towards the site in a desperate attempt to help, while others fled in panic, fearing further explosions. The sound of sirens filled the air as emergency services already on site due to the airshow rushed to the scene. Firefighters, paramedics, and police officers were among the first to respond, battling through the thick smoke and intense heat to reach the victims. The West Sussex Fire and Rescue Service arrived within minutes, but the scale of the disaster was overwhelming. The burning wreckage of the jet and the vehicles it had struck created a scene of unimaginable horror. Firefighters worked quickly to extinguish the flames, but the intense heat and the danger of further explosions made their task incredibly difficult. The emergency crews, many of whom had witnessed the crash themselves, worked tirelessly to rescue those trapped in the burning vehicles, but the destruction was too severe. The crash site on the A27 was littered with debris, burning vehicles, and the remains of the aircraft. The road itself was completely blocked by the wreckage, and traffic in both directions ground to a halt. Several drivers and passengers who had been on the road at the time of the crash managed to escape their vehicles, but others were not so fortunate. 11 people lost their lives in the crash, all of them on the ground. These victims included motorists and pedestrians who had been in the wrong place at the wrong time. 16 others were injured, some seriously as they tried to escape the burning wreckage. In the midst of the chaos, the pilot, Andrew Hill, was found alive in the wreckage. Remarkably, despite the catastrophic nature of the crash, Hill had survived, though he was severely injured. He was pulled from the wreckage by emergency responders and immediately airlifted to the Royal Sussex County Hospital in Brighton. Hill's injuries were so severe that he was placed in a medically induced coma, and his condition was described as critical. The immediate response to the disaster was hampered by the scale of the destruction. The A27 motorway was completely shut down, and access to the crash site was severely restricted. Emergency crews worked under extreme conditions to recover the bodies of the victims and to secure the area. The second day of the Shoreham Airshow, scheduled for August 23rd, was immediately canceled, and the site of the crash was restricted for investigation. As the flames were finally brought under control and the wreckage cooled, the full extent of the disaster became apparent. The once busy motorway was now a scene of utter devastation, with charred vehicles and debris scattered across the road. The disaster left a profound impact on those who witnessed it. Spectators at the airshow, many of whom had brought their families for a day of entertainment, were left traumatized by the events. The shock of seeing a routine airshow maneuver end in such a catastrophic way was difficult to comprehend, and many struggled to process the tragedy they had just witnessed. The investigation into the Shoreham Airshow disaster was led by the UK's Air Accidents Investigation Branch, or AAIB. The preliminary findings reveal that the Hawker Hunter jet had failed to gain sufficient altitude during the loop maneuver, causing it to descend rapidly instead of leveling off. Further investigation revealed that the pilot, Andrew Hill, had initiated the loop maneuver at a lower altitude and speed than was required for safe execution. The AAIB's final report, published in March 2017, identified several factors that contributed to the crash, including the pilot's actions and the limitations of the vintage aircraft. The report also highlighted that Hill had failed to abandon the maneuver when it became clear that the aircraft was too low, a decision that directly led to the catastrophic outcome. Hill, who had survived the crash, was later charged with 11 counts of manslaughter by gross negligence. The prosecution argued that Hill's actions were reckless and that he had failed to exercise the necessary caution while performing the maneuver. However, during the trial, the defense presented evidence suggesting that Hill may have experienced cognitive impairment at the time of the crash due to the effects of G-force, which could have affected his judgment. In March 2019, Hill was found not guilty on all charges, as the jury accepted that the possibility of cognitive impairment could not be ruled out. The Shoreham Airshow disaster prompted significant changes in airshow regulations in the UK. The Civilian Aviation Authority introduced stricter rules for airshows, particularly for displays involving vintage aircraft. These new regulations included limiting high-risk maneuvers and ensuring that aircraft maintain a safe distance from population areas. The CAA also temporarily grounded all Hawker Hunter jets and imposed restrictions on aerobatic displays to prevent similar tragedies in the future. The lessons learned from the Shoreham disaster have had a lasting impact on airshow safety. The tragedy highlighted the importance of rigorous safety assessments, proper risk management, and the need for continuous evaluation of airshow practices. As a result, airshows across the UK and beyond have implemented stricter safety measures to protect both participants and spectators, ensuring that such a disaster doesn't happen again. If you found this video insightful, please like and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring more stories to light. Thanks for watching.